Thought I would tell people a little bit of background information. I am an avid mountain walker and spend most weekends trekking the mountains and hills of South Wales. I have done this for over 15 years. Within that time only twice have I ever felt genuinely concerned for my safety, once when I was confronted by a bull and the other in the story below. It was a boiling hot Saturday afternoon about 5 years ago. I was doing one of my favorite walks, which was about 14 miles long. This particular area was mainly forestry, but the tracks themselves were gravel. There were no other walkers and only a few cyclists, which was kind of typical with it being so hot. So the first 9 to 10 miles were standard. I was at a bottom of a track that would eventually lead to the top of the valley. About 50 meters ahead I could see a man walking in the same direction. He was tall, thin and had short cropped hair. He was wearing a white t-shirt, blue jeans and black boots, and he walked with a strange limp, and that looked like he had to swing his leg around, almost like one leg was shorter than the other. I didn't think much of it. He was actually walking quite fast, so probably wouldn't have to overtake him. I carried on up the track. The sun was overhead and it was sweltering. The man in front kept limping along but nonetheless was making quick work of the incline. The track started to bend and I lost sight of the limping man. The track comes up to a choice of two paths, east that leads to a small car park that is rarely used and west which leads to the top of the valley. As I was about to head west, I heard a man shout, "Fuick." It was coming from within the forest. I waited a second and then another outburst, "NNNO." My first thought was, that guy must have tried taking a shortcut and had fallen over. As I made my way through the thick trees and ferns to see what was up, I stopped dead in my boots. Up ahead through the trees I could see the man. He was sat down on a log with his head in his hands. He then screamed at the top of his lungs, "Arg." He then bolted up and started punching a tree. His face was bright red. He was raging. He then picked up a stick and started to bash it against a tree. I was frozen. I couldn't actually process what the hell was going. He just looked absolutely mad. He shouted, "I hate you," and started stomping his feet. I simply thought, I need to get out of here before he sees me. I quietly started to make my way back to the track, careful not to fall over or make any loud noises. That man was clearly a lunatic. I thought I would go the more rarely used east track and then take a shortcut north through the ferns. This was probably the best way to avoid him. With every step I became more confident and almost started to laugh about it. Maybe he wanted to let off a bit of steam and vent some anger. The middle of a forest seems like the perfect place, I suppose. So after about 10 to 15 minutes the ferns started to grow thick and they were at chest level. It wasn't a problem because they are fairly easy to push through. As I looked back behind me, I could see the limping man about 25 meters away. He is wading through the ferns towards me. He had a strange snarl on his face and his head is bobbing up and down between the ferns. I couldn't believe what was happening. He must have seen me. There was no other explanation. I was only a mile away from a main road, so I started to speed up and walk a bit faster. I occasionally looked behind me and could see I was getting further and further away. I started to relax. It's over. I still don't know what to make of the situation, but the fact he followed me through the ferns was the most disturbing thing. I have done that same walk over a dozen times since and haven't seen him again. This content was provided by angelotricarico.com.